I remember the smell of old wood, the faint flicker of candlelight, and the cold floor beneath my knees. I was crying, not because I had lost something, but because, for the first time in my life, I felt like I had been found. There, in the back of a small Christian chapel on the edge of Grand Rapids, Michigan, I whispered the name I had once been told never to utter with reverence. Jesus, my name is Amina. I am a 27-year-old American woman, born and raised in a devout Muslim home. My father, Imam Said, is respected in our local Muslim community. My mother, Mariam, has always been quiet, gentle, and deeply obedient. I have two younger brothers, Yusuf and Kareem, both sharp-minded and well on their way to becoming engineers. From the outside, our family looked peaceful, faithful, and deeply united. But on the inside, especially within me, there was a storm I had fought to silence for years. Before I go any further, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed to this channel. I really appreciate your support. My journey began with questions. I was about 16 when I started to notice the silence in my prayers. I prayed 5 times a day, like every good Muslim daughter. I fasted during Ramadan. I recited the Quran with diligence. But there was something missing, something I could not quite name. When I asked my father why Allah felt distant, he told me it was a test of obedience. When I asked my mother why I never felt peace after prayer, she smiled sadly and told me peace was a reward in the afterlife. But I needed peace now. In college, I met Emma. She was the kind of person whose joy was hard to ignore. It made me uncomfortable at first. She would say things like, "God spoke to me today," or "Jesus gave me strength." I thought it was madness, but I was drawn to her warmth and curiosity. One afternoon, after a long study session, she invited me to her church. I told her I could not go, but she handed me a small blue book. It was the Gospel of John. I accepted it out of politeness and tucked it deep into my biology textbook. At night, I would read it in secret under my blanket. The words were strange, unfamiliar, but they stirred something in me. When I read, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it," I wept without knowing why. I did not understand Jesus yet, but I began to feel something I had never known before: hope. Of course, secrets do not stay hidden for long in a house built on silence and strictness. One night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I was in my room reading the Gospel again. I did not hear my brother come in. He stared at the pages with wide eyes, then shouted for my father. That moment changed everything. My father stormed in like a hurricane. He snatched the book, eyes blazing. He did not shout at first. That was the scariest part. He stood in front of me, breathing hard, holding the Gospel as though it burned his hand. Then he said one word: "Why?" I could not answer. My mouth opened, but no words came out. In that silence, he made a decision. He banned me from seeing Emma. He removed my door, my phone was taken, my classes were closely watched. I became a prisoner in my own home. But the strange thing was, I still felt freer than ever before, because now, I knew there was something out there that did not demand blind obedience, but invited me into love. A love that forgave, that saw me, and that did not require perfection. A few weeks later, I slipped out one evening to attend a Bible study. Emma had invited me to. It was in a coffee shop downtown. We read from the book of Luke, and for the first time I prayed not out of obligation, but from desperation. I asked Jesus, if he was real, to show me. I needed to know I was not going crazy. I needed to know this pain had a purpose. That night, I had a dream. A man clothed in white stood before me, his face glowing, his hands scarred. He did not speak much. He only said, "Come to me." I woke up crying again, but not in fear. This time, it was from peace. I wish I could say that my family understood, that they welcomed my questions, but the truth was much harder. They found out about the Bible study. My father called me a traitor. He said I had shamed the family. The next morning, I woke up to find my bags packed. "You are not my daughter anymore," he said. I stepped outside into the Michigan winter, with nothing but my coat, my backpack, and a Bible in my pocket. And that was how it all began. I had officially become what I feared most, a woman without a home, without a family, and without a name in the eyes of her community. But even in that emptiness, something powerful was beginning to grow inside of me. It was not confidence, it was not strength, not yet. What was growing inside me was freedom. The freedom to think, the freedom to speak, the freedom to choose faith without force. My decision to follow Jesus was not something I broadcasted online or shouted from rooftops. It was quiet, personal, sacred. But word had already spread. By the end of the month, every person from the mosque, every friend I had grown up with, had heard that Amina, the girl from the strict Muslim family, had left Islam and started going to church. Some people called it betrayal, some called it insanity. A few even called it suicide. I did not respond to any of them. I could not, because I no longer knew who I was supposed to defend myself to. I was not theirs anymore. I belonged to someone else, but reality does not wait for spiritual identity to form. The shelter had a 90-day limit, and I was approaching the end of my stay. Carol helped me apply for some low-income housing, but the waiting list was long. She also tried to connect me with a Christian family that sometimes took in young women in need, but they were already hosting 2 teenage girls. That was how I ended up at a city-run women's shelter, much rougher, less forgiving, and far more dangerous. My first night there, I heard a woman scream in the hallway as a fight broke out between 2 others. Security broke it up, but not before blood hit the floor. I kept to myself, barely sleeping, clutching my Bible like it was a weapon. In that shelter, I saw things I had only ever watched in movies. Drug use in the bathrooms. Young girls being recruited by older men. One woman, no older than me, collapsed one morning and never woke up again. The staff said it was an overdose. Nobody cried, nobody even asked her name. I started to ask myself, was this what following Jesus had led me into? But every time I opened the Word, I would read stories of others who had walked through worse. Paul beaten and imprisoned. Ruth widowed and left to glean in foreign fields. Joseph betrayed and sold by his brothers. And then there was Jesus, mocked, tortured, crucified. The path was never easy, but it was always worth it. Carol still checked on me. She would bring me food sometimes, and pray with me when she could. Emma stayed in touch too, even though her course load was getting heavier. She reminded me constantly that my faith was not built on comfort, it was built on conviction. One night, while walking back to the shelter, after applying for another job, I found a flyer stuck to a telephone pole. It read, "Looking for house cleaning help. $12/hour, must be trustworthy, and detail-oriented." A phone number was scribbled at the bottom. I called it the next morning. A woman answered. Her name was Rachel, a mother of 3 who had just moved to the city with her husband. She needed someone to help keep the house in order, while she juggled parenting and work. We met at a cafe. She asked me a few questions, and offered me the job that same day. I was shocked. I had no resume, no references, just the truth. When I told her I was in a shelter, she did not flinch. She smiled and said, "Everyone is coming from somewhere." Rachel became a gift I did not expect. She was not overly religious, but she respected my faith journey. She let me read my Bible during breaks, made sure I ate lunch, and eventually asked if I wanted to come over for Thanksgiving. That Thanksgiving changed everything. It was my first time celebrating that holiday properly. Sitting at a table with laughter, children's voices, the smell of roasted turkey, and no fear of being judged. It was overwhelming. Halfway through the meal, I had to excuse myself and cry in the bathroom. Not because I was sad, but because I felt what I had never truly felt before. I belonged. Weeks later, Rachel introduced me to her neighbor, Mr. Donnelly, a retired mechanic who needed part-time help organizing his garage and running errands. I started helping him too. Between the 2 of them, I was able to save enough money to rent a small studio apartment. It was just 1 room, with a kitchenette and a bathroom, but it was mine. I paid for it myself. No strings, no one controlling me. I moved in on a Sunday afternoon. My only possessions were a suitcase of clothes, a blanket Carol had given me, a Bible, and a second-hand lamp Rachel found for me at a thrift store. But that night, as I lay on the floor, I looked up at the ceiling and whispered through tears, "Jesus, thank you. I have nothing, but I have you." That was when the dreams changed again. I began seeing people in them, women in scarves like I used to wear, men speaking the language of my childhood. In one dream, I was standing at a bridge, calling to them, but they could not hear me. In another, I was in a desert, giving water to a stranger who thanked me with words from the Bible. I did not know what they meant, but I started to pray, "Use me, Lord. If you can bring me out of that darkness, maybe you can use me to help someone else." That prayer began to take root. I started writing my story, not to publish, just for me, to process everything I had walked through, from the mosque to the shelter, from silence to singing, from rejection to redemption. I wanted to see the journey laid out in front of me, to remind myself that God had not wasted a single tear. But just as I began to settle, something unexpected happened. One evening I came home from work and found an envelope slid under my door. No name, just a note inside. It read, "You may have run, but you cannot hide forever. Allah sees all. Return before it is too late." My hands trembled. The air seemed to drain from my lungs. Was it a threat? A warning? Was someone watching me? Was my family still trying to bring me back? I called Rachel. She told me to report it to the police. I did, but they could not do much without a name. They told me to stay alert and document everything. I could have panicked. I could have left town. But I chose to pray. That night I fell on my knees and cried out, "Jesus, I am not afraid. You brought me this far. I know you will not leave me now. If this is spiritual warfare, then give me your peace. If this is a test, then give me strength. But please, keep me in your hand." And just like that, the fear lifted. It was not gone completely, but it no longer had control. I had walked through the fire, and now I stood free. Homeless no more. Afraid no more. But the biggest twist was still ahead. I had made peace with the fact that my family might never come back into my life. I had grieved them like one grieves the living, slowly, painfully, and without closure. But just when I thought the last page of that chapter had been turned, the Lord flipped the script in a way I never expected. It started on a cold Saturday morning, in early December. I was sitting in my small apartment, sipping lukewarm tea, and preparing for my usual Bible study time. The city was quiet under a layer of fresh snow, and I had planned to spend the day indoors reading, writing, and praying. Then my phone buzzed with a message. It was from a number I did not recognize. The message simply read, "Amina, please, can we talk?" My heart skipped. Nobody called me Amina anymore. I had gone by Anna for almost a year now, but that one name sent shivers down my spine. My hands trembled as I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came almost instantly. "It is Layla, your sister." I dropped the phone, literally dropped it. I stared at it on the floor for what felt like hours, my mind racing through every possibility. Why now? Why after all this time? Could it be a trap, or she reaching out for real? I picked up the phone and called her. "Layla," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Amina, it is really you." She was crying. I could tell by the way her voice kept cracking. I did not know if this number would still work. "I have been trying to find you." I asked her why. "I left home," she said quietly. I could not take it anymore. The pressure, the shame, the silence. "After you disappeared, everything changed. They treated me like I was next. They watched every move I made. One day, I packed a bag and ran, just like you did." I sat on the floor, stunned. My little sister, the one who used to beg me not to argue with our parents, had left home too. She had found refuge with a friend from college, taken a job at a bookstore, and had been searching for me online for months. When she finally found my name on a women's shelter volunteer page from last year, she took a chance and texted me, "I do not know what you believe now, she said nervously. But I have been reading the Bible too. I broke down crying. I could not believe it. Not only had God saved me, but he was reaching into my family as well. Layla had started reading the Gospel of John after a girl at her job gave her a copy. The words of Jesus had been haunting her in the best way possible. I do not know what I am doing yet, she confessed, but I think I believe. I think I want this too. We met 2 days later at a quiet cafe outside the city. She looked older, tired, thinner, but there was a fire in her eyes I had never seen before. We hugged for so long that people stared. We did not care. That night, I brought her to my church. When the worship music began, I saw her silently crying beside me, hands trembling, lips moving in prayer. After the service, she told me she had never felt anything like that before. It is like breathing air for the first time, she said. Over the next few months, we rebuilt everything we had lost. She moved in with me temporarily, and we spent hours reading the Bible, praying, and just being sisters again. We laughed about old times, and cried over the pain we had both endured. Then came the unexpected twist. Our father had found out where she was. He sent a message through a relative. No threats, no shouting, just one sentence: tell her I miss her, and I miss Amina too. We were stunned. The man who once said I was dead to him wanted to speak. At first I resisted. I did not trust it, but Layla insisted we should at least hear him out. So, we agreed to meet in a public place, with 2 members from our church nearby for safety. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. His beard was grayer, his posture was heavier, and his eyes, those eyes that used to burn with anger, now looked tired, almost sorry. I do not expect forgiveness, he said. I only came to say I was wrong, about everything. My heart pounded. I did not speak, he continued. When you left, I blamed God. I blamed myself. But most of all, I blamed the religion that taught me how to hate my own daughter for asking questions. I was not protecting the family. I was protecting my pride. Silence followed. Then he added, I have been reading the New Testament too. Someone at the hospital gave me one after I had a heart scare. I read about the prodigal son, and it broke me. I realized I am not the father I thought I was. I am the one who needs to come home. Tears streamed down my face. Was this real? Could the same man who once declared me a disgrace now be sitting here, repenting? It did not happen overnight, but slowly, God began to rebuild our family. Not in the way I expected, not all at once. My mother still refused to speak to me. My older brother cut off all contact, but the seed had been planted. The cracks in the old walls were showing, and for the first time, I saw hope shining through. Today, I no longer go by Amina. I am Anna Grace now. Grace because it is the only word that explains how I survived everything I did. I now work as a full-time counselor at the same Christian women's center that once took me in. I help girls from different backgrounds, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, who are curious about Jesus, but afraid of what it might cost them. Because I know the cost. I lost everything, but I gained eternity. And if you are watching this, wondering whether Jesus is worth it, let me say this: he is. Even when it hurts, even when you are alone, even when everyone walks away, he never will. Thank you so much to everyone who stayed through this journey with me. I pray my story touched your heart. If it did, please let me know in the comments how God is working in your life. And if you are still on the fence, keep seeking, keep asking. He is not afraid of your questions. He is just waiting for you to come home.